I've scanned my whole body several times. I could be 50 years gone, but people will still see a new Terry Crews project. Hopefully my pecs will pop in artificial intelligence.
Terry Crews has a story that every YouTuber needs to hear.
Please just run the camera, because I'm ready to give it up.
Terry Crews, everybody. Terry Crews.
Yeah! I love this song.
After getting cut by the NFL, he figured out how to turn creativity into a career.
It was a $100 million movie, and I had never acted before. I hadn't even done a school play.
He made ads on YouTube that were so good, they didn't feel like ads.
I remember we were on set, and I was doing this crazy stuff, and then my pecs started popping. They were like, wait, that's a whole nother spot.
And now he's using AI in ways that totally blew my mind.
And I didn't say a word. I couldn't speak.
Honestly, our conversation made me rethink everything I'm doing on YouTube today, and I think I'll do the same for you.
I want to be able to entertain from 12 minutes to 30 seconds to 2 hours. I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to create. This is so good, John.
I'm John Youshaei, and welcome to another episode of Created.
You're very good at what you do.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Oh, John, my pleasure, man. My pleasure.
I feel like you're one of the only human beings who could go from hosting America's Got Talent to starring in a Kendrick Lamar music video to the set of Sesame Street to then going to the gym and outlifting everyone there. But the chapter in your career that to me is most surprising, Terry, is you as an artist. So I wanted to ask, when was the first time that you really got paid for your art growing up?
You know, it's funny. That's a funny story. And it's one that was really sobering. I'll try to be succinct with it. I always had this vision of Hollywood, not in front of the camera, but behind the scenes. I saw myself as a creator. I actually saw myself, as a special effects artist. I used to make spaceships out of styrofoam. I would get out of boxes. I would sculpt monsters and creating stuff. And then I would paint things that were movie posters. Drew Struzan, the guy who drew all the Star Wars posters, was my hero. He was my example. I'm going to be a movie poster artist is what I wanted to do. And when I met my wife and we started dating, right before we got engaged, I said, what we're going to do, we are going to play in the NFL, and then we're going to move to LA, and we're going to make movies. So you got to understand, everything that I'm doing now, I actually spoke it. I had a real keen sense of how to write down a goal.
Wow.
Like you write it, you put it into the fabric of the universe, and then you kind of have to go into it. Because one thing is I was very careful. At first, I used to tell everybody my dream, and they would be like, I would get beat up. But what I did realize is that there were people that I trusted that I had to give this to so that I could do it. Because I knew if I said it kind of like it was forcing me into this path. You know what I mean? So what happened though is that I got better. I got really good at my university, and the NFL became the thing. You know what I mean? So I knew once I said I wanted to go in the NFL, I trained hard. I started to shape myself into that, and I made it. I got drafted in the 11th round. You have to understand, they don't even have 11 rounds now, okay? It was like a glorified free agent, but I did not care. Coming from Flint, Michigan, it was like, man, there was no other way I was going to make it out. So I got into the NFL, and you have to understand too, I got cut. I got drafted by the LA Rams, and I hustled. Remember that same thing about giving your all, doing everything you can do. And I went in and I got cut. And I was hurt, but Jeff Fisher, who was the coach at the time, who was my defensive coordinator, he said, Terry, you worked so hard, we're going to bring you back on practice squad. And 2 weeks later, a linebacker got hurt. I was moved up to the active roster. I tripped and fell all the way to the NFL. And I was not dumb enough to quit. So you're talking about 6 teams in 7 years. I was bouncing all over the place, but I was like, to me, I said, I'd rather be poor going after my dream than, more just rich living a life that I don't want to live.
How did you choose the NFL as a stepping stone to Hollywood? Because I think there's a lot of different routes. I mean, we see other folks like now, people like Logan Paul are going to WWE, and it's almost like catapulting his level. of fame, but how did you choose the NFL as your stepping stone?
Well, you have to understand, everybody who plays in the NFL thinks a movie career is guaranteed after they're done playing. I mean, everybody, like, okay, I'm going to leave and I'm going to make movies. And it's like, no. I mean, how many people have actually been successful at that? You know, like Carl Weathers, maybe. But it's almost like people thought, it's guaranteed. So I thought the same thing. I literally was like, everyone's going to know who I am. I'm going to go to Hollywood and be able to do things. But the problem is when I moved to LA, nobody cared. You have to understand too, as a football player and a marginal football player at that, you wear a helmet all the time. So nobody knew who I was. You're a number. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's really wild. There were very famous people that were in the NFL that no one knew what they looked like because they were always wearing a helmet and the whole thing. It's different with basketball or soccer or whatever. But the NFL at the time didn't really want you to be a very recognized person. So when I came out to Hollywood, I actually tried my hand at animation.
Really?
And my portfolio was in at Disney, at DreamWorks, at Hanna-Barbera.
Wow.
And I was getting pretty far. It was really good. Like my portfolio was building, and what you had to do was keep submitting your portfolio. And I had gotten really, really good because what was happening is as I got cut from every NFL team, I would humble myself and go back in the locker room and ask the players if they wanted their portraits painted. Because I knew that was a way to sustain myself. I said, instead of working at A&P, some grocery store, I would much rather get like $5,000 for a painting that would take me maybe 2 months to do, and it would allow me to feed my family. And players, they gave me money to paint them, and I would go in there like, I'm going to paint you over the city and I'm going to make you look all amazing. And I had all these great examples. And dude, they were like, man, I want that, man. I want, put me over the city, man. And it was kind of cool because I had a portfolio coming out of the NFL of players and athletes that I had painted over the years. I had done basketball players, football players, the whole thing. And so that helped me to get my animation portfolio together. But this was the thing. Toy Story came out. And the computer-generated animation killed hand-drawn animation. I was in line while they were they were interviewing artists for DreamWorks for Prince of Egypt. And I remember being in line and submitting my portfolio and the whole thing. And it was like overnight, it was over. Like a lot of those artists, hand-drawn guys, couldn't do computers, and I couldn't either. I didn't even know how to do it. All I knew was a pencil, some colored pencils. I knew how to be an in-betweener and all that stuff, but the other stuff was done, and I was like back to security. I was sweeping floors at factories. I was filing all the papers that fell over in the Northridge earthquake at the Veterans Administration. I did that for like 8 months. Anything to just laugh. I mean, I didn't make a lot of money in the NFL because I was so transient. So it was like here today, gone tomorrow. And it was really, really wild. And a friend of mine invited me to an audition. You got to understand, I never wanted to act, ever. I thought I was a creator. I was going to be this guy. And the audition was for a show called Battle Dome. And it was like American Gladiators on steroids. Okay. And the first thing I ever auditioned for, and I got it. And now my life changed. It was in front of the camera. And I remember my wife coming to a show and she was like, you really got a knack for this. I was like, because, as an artist, all I did was like, I envisioned what I wanted to film. So I said, I have to be the person that I would love to put in my movie or in my show.
Right.
And that was my acting technique, and it worked. It worked. And let me tell you, that was 25 years ago, over 25 years ago. And I can't believe the career that's happened. Yeah, it's kind of wild because you kind of follow, I almost like looking at, I feel like I was holding on to a log and you just let the river take you where it goes. You know what I mean? And don't resist anything. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people, one thing I noticed is that there are a lot of people like, if this happens, no, say no to that and no to that. It's got to be this path. But I never did that. It was like, just go, just follow. Like the fact that the audition was presented to me and I went, that's changed my life forever. So I knew as new opportunities come, try it, go for it. You don't know if this is going to be the key for you or not.
Terry, that reminds me of something you said about Arnold Schwarzenegger from working with him. You mentioned that he encouraged you to try everything.
Yes.
Drama, comedy, horror, all sorts of films.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask, what was an opportunity that you went after that scared you the most?
It's funny you would mention Arnold Schwarzenegger because I have a story about that. It's funny because the first time I got a movie role, it was a movie called The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was giant. It was $100 million movie shooting in Vancouver. And I had never acted before. Like I had done this TV show Battle Dome, which was kind of a game show and all that, but not like, here I am. This is a big movie. And I will never forget my scene with Arnold. I was supposed to walk up to him on his steps of his house. And I was like, Adam Gibson, come with us. And I walked up there and Arnold turns around, looks me in my face, and I'm like, and I didn't say a word. I couldn't speak. And something magically went wrong with the camera. And they were like, oh, we got to reset. I'm sorry, we got to reset. And I remember pulling myself to the side and I was like, Terry, do you want to go back to doing security? You want to go back to sweeping floors? Hey, man, I know you're scared, but do it anyway. Do it, do it, do it. You have no other recourse here. Your family, your future, your kid, everything is hinging on this moment right now. And when they started, and then they started up again, and I was like, Adam Gibson, come with us. And he was like, I like this guy. He's really good. He comes with the heat, And I was like, after that, I knew to go in. Like, because you're going to be afraid. You're going to be scared. But I learned also there's a big difference between fear and excitement. Fear and excitement feel exactly the same. And you have to know the difference. If you're fearful, you tank, you stop. But if you feel those bubbles and you decide that you're going to be excited, you get better. It becomes your performance rises. So I took all those bubbles and started to understand I'm excited. I'm not fearful. I'm excited. And all of a sudden that changed everything for me. And I mean, it became where I didn't want to run from the camera. Even though I may feel fearful or no, it's excitement. You're excited. Don't be scared. And all of a sudden, everyone gets on board with you. It's amazing.
I heard this story. Everyone knows that famous scene in White Chicks
Yes.
where, it's epic. I feel like I've played that video so many times.
How did you know? I love this song. Making my way downtown, walking sad, and I miss you. And now I wonder.
I heard you did that in one take, Terry.
That's right.
Well, take me through that moment. How did that happen?
Well, you have to understand, I was in my hotel room practicing that probably for a month straight, right?
One scene?
Listening to the song all day long, to the point where I was getting all the little things and anything. I just wanted it to be pivotal, right? And when I sat in that car and they started filming, I was like, please just run the camera because I'm ready to give it up. And the moments when they discovered that whole little it was just flowing. I mean, it's funny. I even realized how when you see great athletes like Steph Curry doing his thing, you can see it when he's on. When Jordan scoring 63 as his rookie year, it's like time stops and you can do no wrong. That's how it felt on that set of White Chicks. Everything flowed. Every line just flowed out of me, man. I was going, this is a spiritual experience. You know what I mean? On the most stupid movie ever. You know what I mean? But that's why it still lasts to this day. It took a lot of preparation. I was in that room, like I said, for a whole month doing that practice.
You're just listening to Vanessa Carlton on repeat.
All the time, all day long, nonstop. And I said, I'm going to be over prepared so that when it comes, it's just going to flow.
What were some alternate takes of that?
Oh,
Like, where were you going to take that?
Well, there were none. I mean, we did it once.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm saying the preparation, because that's so fascinating to hear, Terry, that you prepared for that moment.
Yeah.
Because when I heard one take, I'm like, he's a natural.
No. You see, this is another thing I want to say. And this is, a lot of people don't realize it. There's no such thing as a natural. Everything is learned. Everything is worked on. Everything. I hear a lot about rappers who go into the studio once and then they can all of a sudden, they never write anything down. But they've been working on this thing for years and years and years, all day long, 24/7, nothing but lyrics, nothing but so when the time when a guy like Jay-Z gets in the studio, it's got to explode.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there is no not writing or not working on it and all this stuff. You're working on it. And so when people see things that are natural, what they say is natural is just the first time you saw it. You know what I'm saying? But behind closed doors, it's nothing but work. It's hard work until it gets into the flow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you fear being typecast? I feel like a lot of folks, even when they hit their stride creatively, they feel like they have to make the same thing, whether that's a YouTuber making the same video, the same format, it's an actor playing the same role. Did you feel that? And how did you fight against it?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that I was on my way to being typecast. And this is another thing. Typecasting works because it'll get you paid. Like you can actually work, you know what I mean? Because the whole thing was, okay, here I am, this big black man who, I played a killer in the CSIs, you know what I mean? They put me in these, big intimidating roles and the whole thing. But what I would do, and I knew what I could do. It's almost like you hear a song, but when you have Dolly Parton singing, I Will Always Love You, and then you have Whitney Houston singing, I Will Always Love You. Both are hits, but it's totally different when somebody else sings it. When I decided I was going to bring me into everything. So it's impossible to be typecast because there is no other you. There's no other Terry Cruise. If I bring me into a performance, into whatever is a normal, role or whatever, I knew it would stand out. So I remember being on Malibu's Most Wanted. And here was like a funny role, but I was like a background guy. But I kept doing things that got the director's attention. Like, whoa, wait, what is this guy in the back doing? And they kept telling me to do new things and keep going and all this stuff. And another thing is at this time, for a guy like me, big, muscular and whatever, there was no big, funny, muscular guy. You were either chubby or skinny or whatever, but muscle and funny didn't work. But when I brought what I brought to it, people started to say, wait a minute, this big guy can do comedy, which was watershed at the time. No one, you got to understand, at the time, it was so new, like that White Chicks moment, people were like, wait a minute, I've never seen this before. And so I knew that was my way. Whereas everyone else wanted me to be this big, kick-ass action movie guy, I realized that my lane was going to be comedy. I was going to stay in that lane and keep doing it because it was all to myself. And I was like, I don't have to compete with anybody because I'm just being me. My wife knows that I'm a goofball. You know what I mean? She's seen it all at home. She's seen me doing it and all this stuff. And she's like, Terry, you are just literally being yourself, different parts of you in all of these roles. But the thing is, there's only one you. And that makes it absolutely, it's impossible to be typecast. It's perfect.
Yeah, that quote you have that sticks with me is that competition is the opposite of creativity.
That's right. That's right.
I love that.
I learned a long time ago, because what was happening, I remember feeling jealous. You get those things where everyone's telling you, okay, man, so-and-so has got this role, so you got to do this, you got to look like this. And I realized, man, because if I'm competing with you, I'm not creating. Instantly, I'm now put myself on another plane of just you. It's like, you know what? It's funny because people say, well, I'm not good at basketball. But what's real, but you have to understand, every new sport was created by people who are like, I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to create. And so no matter if you're not good at basketball, I'm good at tennis. So I created tennis, you know what I mean? And this is how these things get started, you know? This is how in the Olympics, they have to bring a new sport in because somebody's like, no, I'm not good at that, but I'm good at this. And I realized always create your own sport. You know what I mean? It's wild because if you're always on someone else's playing field and you're always playing the game and the rules that they set, you'll never win. You know, the Beastie Boys have a song where they say, I play no game that I can't win. And I love that thing. You got to set yourself up to play the game that you can win every time.
I feel like another way that you changed the game was when it came to marketing and YouTube and those Old Spice commercials. I couldn't believe some of the things that you did in those videos. And I heard this story, Terry, that you were actually on set and you guys were coming up with new ideas for these Old Spice commercials. And you're like signing the contracts in real time for new commercials to shoot.
At first, that is exactly what happened. This is what's so nuts.
Real quick, before we get to the rest of the interview, one thing that struck me about my conversation with Terry, both on and off the camera, is how ahead of his time he is, especially when it comes to creating content and embracing new technology like AI. But if you're like me, you don't just want to use AI to make mediocre content. You want to make it great. And that's why I recommend checking out this free guide from today's sponsor, HubSpot, on how to use generative AI to scale your content. And what I really love about this guide is that it gives some really great practical tips on how to write specific prompts to get better results using AI tools. This guide also answers questions that most people overlook, like how do you avoid plagiarism if your content is generated by AI? And does Google penalize AI content and more? So check out the link below to get this free guide from HubSpot, which is today's sponsor. And now let's get back to it.
You know, you got to understand, when I started doing Old Spice, at the time, my managers, agents, everyone was like, it's very dangerous. Because if you do commercials, you'll get typecast, you'll be stuck in commercials. And at the time, no big stars were doing commercials because they were like, that's beneath me. It was almost like, okay, there's this hierarchy. There's movies, there's television, and then there's commercials, and then below that, there's internet. You know what I mean? That was like, listen, that hierarchy was there. And they were like, oh, you're going to do this commercial? And people look at you like, oh. But I said, dude, you remember the thing that I thought might work against me, it was the best thing that ever happened for me because I did not have some acting coach or acting teacher or some acting school that was back there like, we don't do that, Terry. I'm free play land. I'm like, I'm an old football player. I don't care. And then I was like, man, this is a great opportunity. I don't see a problem. And so I did it. And I remember we were on set and I was doing this crazy stuff. And then my pecs started popping. They were like, wait, that's a whole nother spot, you know? And they started coming up with stuff. I'll never forget. We did the block commercial when I was like, block. They were like, he's willing to do this stuff. Because I was it was like we were simpatico. We were hitting on every level. And I saw no difference between entertainment and marketing. No difference. In fact, commercials can be just as entertaining as a movie, as a television show, as anything you could enjoy, as a great book. Everything is entertainment, everything. And when it's funny because it really hit me when people were watching all the Old Spice commercials for a half hour straight, and they were watching them as entertainment. And I realized this is the way.
Terry, you mentioned embracing new mediums, and I think you're always on the cutting edge of that. I wanted to share a moment from America's Got Talent, which you host, which just blew me away. And I think the impact of this for entertainment media is going to be groundbreaking.
Oh my God, yes. Yes. Metaphysic. Groundbreaking. This is so good, John. That was scary.
Explain that clip.
Okay. First of all, this group called Metaphysic had the ability to create an AI version of any person, any celebrity. They ended up going to the finals by bringing Elvis back to sing live at the finals, which was crazy. And it was indistinguishable from real life. They do the Tom Cruise deepfake. They do so many other things. And I said, this is the future, man. They went all the way to the finals. Like, they almost made it, but it changed the game. I was like, this is the future. In fact, I would love, and I'm an early adopter, but I would love, and I've scanned my whole body several times, but when I'm long gone, to still be able to do performances, literally for my grandkids and other projects and other movies and other things, when I am already I could be 50 years gone, but people will still see a new Terry Crews project. That's the dream. That, for me, I have no problem with that. You know what I mean? Go ahead, you got it. And these guys with this technology and what AI has done, I've already invested in stuff. We actually have a full-fledged digital copy of Carnegie Hall that I teamed up with this group called Virtual Worlds, and we went and we scanned Carnegie Hall for the future.
Wow, that's fat. The deepfake stuff, Terry. Wow, I didn't realize you had your body whole scanned.
Yeah, I have several times.
Several times.
Because it gets better. You know what I mean? And
so you go back and do improvements.
I did it. The first time I did it was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And so now I did one like a year ago. And so now, and even now I got my face scanned just literally a week ago to add facial hair and all this stuff. So the technology is getting better and better and better. I remember early on in my time in Hollywood, everyone said digital will never replace film. My early movies were on film. And everyone was like, nope, digital will never make it. Hey, and it's Kodak Theater. It will always be the Kodak Theater until Kodak was gone. But see, this also reminds me, I grew up in Flint, Michigan. And everyone was like, foreign cars, they were burning foreign cars when I was a kid. There would be smokestacks, in the parking lots from the workers who were like, there will never be a foreign car in Michigan and wherever. And I saw their resistance, but while they were resisting, their factories were being closed. And everything was gone. You can never resist. One thing, you have to find ways to go along with the future. And I've seen it now where there's a lot of artists that are really, really resisting AI because they feel like it's stealing or they feel like whatever. But creativity can never be replaced as long as you put you in it. You know what I mean? Like, a computer can never replace you. It can only enhance you. And that's my mindset. I think that I'll never forget when film went to digital, it never went back. Never. We're filming digitally right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's wild. I don't have to take my film to get developed unless it was some sort of art project. Right. But I think the same thing with AI. I think we can't really resist it. And what's wonderful about Metaphysic, I'm still friends with those guys. They just worked on Tom Hanks' latest movie. Wait till you see them de-age Tom. It's indistinguishable. You were like, how did they do this? It was like Tom at 20. This is crazy. It's never going anywhere. You can't resist it because look at what we can do. It actually opened up projects for Tom Hanks. It's opening up projects for people. They did the same thing with Harrison Ford. You know what I'm saying? So it's opening up the fact that, man, you de-age people. It allows them to give, performances that they wouldn't have been able to do. Totally. Until this technology comes out. So I am an early adopter. I embrace it. Hopefully my pecs will pop in artificial intelligence. Let's make it happen. You know what I mean? And I just really hopeful for, and there's going to be a super creative that's going to take this to a whole nother level. You know what I mean? When I say they're going to Christopher Nolan this thing, and it's going to be like, that's why it was created. You know what I mean? We're all going to be like, we got it now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I remember everyone resists change.
Are you afraid of being copied or like people taking that, or like there's a lot of like now musicians, their voices are being taken and creating songs. Like you're kind of like putting yourself there intentionally. Like, do you worry about that at all?
Not at all. First of all, I love, like, people have done remixes of the Old Spice stuff.
Yeah.
They've done remixes of the performances, me dancing and White Chicks. They put all their own things on it. First of all, take it. I'm done. I'm good. Whatever you like and you want to do something with me, as long as it's not pornography, I'm good. That's the only limit. I'm like, hey man, as long as I got my clothes on, I'm good. You know what I mean? I think I think that, you know, as long as I'm alive, one thing that's great about that Drake song that just came out, he said, I didn't do it. And instantly it was gone. You gotta get the endorsement.
Got it.
If once you get the endorsement, the person that's around say, yep, that's me. And there's ways to digitally know who's approving what. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing. Like, it's just like your DNA code. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the next future where people will be able to really say, okay, you know, I put my code in, it's lined up with my DNA. You know it's me.
Yeah.
And that's all official.
Wow.
I think it's great.
The cosign is going to be even more important that you were involved.
Right. The cosign. It was just once Drake said, that ain't me.
Yeah.
It's like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know
but
what
if
I
you
mean?
said, you know what, I really like that, or like, I'm going to hop on it and remix it myself.
Then it's an advantage. Then you can use it and let somebody do something. You give it the okay.
Wow.
That's a cool way to work, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's still your voice.
Yeah.
So why don't we work together?
It reminds me of the early days of YouTube, like people chopping up videos and ideas being more crowdsourced. But then somebody could take it and be like, let's
think about it with the TikToks where people are sharing, like they split it in half.
Yeah.
And just watch you looking at another video. It works, man. It still goes viral. I mean, you're literally taking content from other people and remixing it.
How do you recreate the creative spirit, the performance, the spontaneity, the yes and with AI? Let's say 50 years from now, somebody is using a deep fake of Terry Crews on a set. How do you exactly think about, okay, marrying technology and spontaneity?
First of all, you know, we all study the past. When you look at comedians, they all study Richard Pryor so that they can improve on it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everything, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When I look at a guy, like there's an actor by the name of Woody Strode, who was back in Spartacus, big, giant, black actor who's a legend. But if he hadn't been here, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? He broke through way back in the days of Kirk Douglas and all this stuff. But I realized I am an iteration of several different people. And I think with AI, it's the same thing. What we'll be able to do is look over the years at different people and improve a performance by doing that. You know what I mean? Like taking all of it and all of a sudden seeing what works and what didn't. Because that's really what this whole thing is all about. It's finding out what works. This is one thing I do love about like traditional broadcasts. Traditional broadcasts has figured out a lot they've done a lot of the hard work because they found what works. When you look at the sitcom format, when you look at the hour-long format, they start to really understand like this works here, this works there. Things you really can't reinvent. You know what I mean? Because they tried it and they put it out there. And when things sunk, they were like, oh my God. They kind of like, they done the Titanic for us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're like, we're not going to sail through icebergs anymore. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about traditional broadcast.
And what's an example of that, Terry?
Well, you know, AGT. AGT is the Ed Sullivan Show. The thing that created television. It never changed. Think about it. Now it got glossier. Right. It got better. It got woo, woo, woo. But it's still, you take regular people, put them in front of, give them a dream, let them work on their dreams in front of the whole of America and now the world. It never gets old. These concepts never, ever change. And people want to see someone go from here to there. You know what I mean? It'll never, ever get old. And so when you look at, that's what happened on Ed Sullivan. There were people who were discovered and people who went from here to there. And the same thing on AGT. it's such a wonderful thing because that's traditional broadcast, but they figured it out. You know what I'm saying? This is one reason why it's in season 18.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not going anywhere. It's not, people will never get old with that because a new year, and I have to tell you this too, I'm always surprised because I think I've seen it all and I've never seen enough. I turn around and I'm like, no one has sung like this. No one has ever danced like that. No one has ever done magic this way. And it's like you realize that there is no limit to human capability. No limit. Now, even a computer has only so many terabytes. but human beings, we can go forever. You'll always be shocked. Always. Because you go, I did not know people could go that far. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit like sports too. Yeah. You know how people get better and better? Look, the way Stephen Curry shoots is unthinkable in the beginning days of the NBA.
Absolutely.
But now he can shoot from half court like it's nothing. This is the process. This is the way creativity works. It's a beautiful thing, man, and you got to let it happen.
That's amazing. And what's really interesting, Terry, is you mentioned that when you started, the internet was almost the bottom of the rung for that entertainment.
Exactly.
How has that changed? How has social media changed the way you think about what you create? Like, take me through, like, what is your relationship with social media as somebody so established in Hollywood in the traditional world?
Well, see, once I had that breakthrough in commercial, I realized no medium is beneath me. You know what I mean? There's no such thing. And there's another way to entertain people. I remember doing early reality. I did a TV show for BET called The Family Cruise. And me and my whole family put ourselves on cameras. And this is the early days. People are like, no, you don't do reality. You'll be condemned to, hell, Hollywood hell, But I did it and it worked. I said, now I realized it all works. And I started getting into the internet, man, and we like the power of YouTube, the power of Instagram, the power of TikTok. I embrace it all. When in the early days of the internet, I remember being on the set of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the early days of Instagram and the whole thing, and no one would let you take a picture on set. They were like, oh, no. If you pulled out your phone, there would be executives running over like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I was like, yeah, but I'm trying to share this on my Facebook. This is back in the day, right? Then one year, we come back after our hiatus. We come back. They're like, okay, everybody take as many pictures as you want. And I was scared. I was like, no, you trying to trick me, man. You trying to trick me. And they were, no, go ahead and post. Go ahead. Post everything. Post a bunch of behind the scenes, all that stuff. You got to say, you would get sued. If you had behind the scenes footage on sets and all this stuff, it was legal ramifications. All of a sudden they were just, no, go ahead. And I didn't trust it for a little while. I remember it was like 6 months I was going, I don't trust you guys. Y'all try to hit me with a lawsuit. But then because they discovered the power of what the internet was. And they were like, look, you're not giving it away. As long as you don't give away any spoilers, you're giving people access. Yeah. And so I embraced it wholeheartedly. And I realized too that I did a lot to reject the people that I didn't want on my social media. And that was another thing too, because I realized that, there's a big difference between a car accident and a museum. When I say a museum, you go in there, you have 10 people, 20 people who go and enjoy and watch and love it. Then you have a car accident that gets millions of followers. But it's a car accident. You know what I mean? Like, I had followers that were wanting to see me crash. And I realized I have to get rid of those people. You know what I mean? And I want my social media to be like a museum.
What's really interesting is I feel like this short film that you made with Zach King, Stranded 3, feels like a museum in many ways, but also has the views of a car accident.
Right.
It gets that viewership. What were some of those things that you learned from Zach? I had a chance to interview him, and he went through the whole process of coming up with ideas. Like, it's ironic because he's so about magic, but he's so structured. What were some of the things that you learned from Zach behind the scenes with that collaboration?
He has a team where they spend all day just examining new ways to create content. And that's one thing I learned. I was like, this man is a miracle worker every time, because, you're talking about special effects that have cost hundreds of millions of dollars to do in movies, he found ways to do the same thing for pennies. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't tell the difference. And that was the thing that shocked so many people. Like, if you think and work on it hard enough, you can crack this code. And this is one reason why I decided to get with Zach, because I said, there's things that I want to learn, the magic that I want to learn from this short format, you know, because I want to be able to entertain at any level, at any time, from 12 minutes to 30 seconds to 2 hours. I want to be able to hit that. And there was a lot I learned working with those guys. And his crew is immaculate, man.
Yeah.
Just, they're good people. Let me tell you, this is another thing. All judgment kills creativity. When someone is like, when we were on the set of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, there was no such thing as a bad joke. You could spit it out there, you could try it, and we would let you have it. And we was like, and if it didn't work, we wouldn't put you down, it wouldn't go down, but you can ad-lib, you can try something, it would be free play. But that's why the show worked. That's why we got 8 years. Because but imagine, there's been shows where somebody tried an ad-lib and they got, what are you doing? That's not funny, it sucks. And you're like, I'll never do that again. And all of a sudden the show stops being funny. And people are like, if it ever got on the air, it would be canceled pretty soon. I realized that. And this is the mode, this is the atmosphere that you need in order to be your most creative. It's gotta be no judgment at all. Everything is it's almost like the improv technique, where the answer is yes and.
Right.
And all of a sudden, yes, and we'll do this. You know what I mean? And when you have that attitude, dude, the sky's the limit. And that's the hip, Zach King and his whole crew have that whole attitude.
Yeah, I remember he was telling me that they get on set, they have their plan, but they always leave room for an extra 10% improvement.
Yes.
An extra 10% innovation. I just thought that's, a manifestation of the yes and.
So good, man. I was loving how simpatico we were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Our personalities, everything. It was like, wow, man, I can't wait to do more with him. I'm telling you, he's a superstar, man. Him and the whole crew and everybody. It was really, really special.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Terry, you have so many talents. You push so many limits. And you have one talent that to me is equally as surprising as the painting and a lot of things you've talked about. It's your ability to play flute. I was wondering if you're open to it. So you play us a little something to close us out here.
Yeah, let's try something. Listen, this is, again, I'm not very good, but
it's okay.
it's been a while.
Play.
Let's try this. Let's see. There we go. There we go.
That's amazing. Terry, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, man, my pleasure, John. My pleasure. Thank you so much, man. Your questions were great. I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, that's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's good. That's good.